At first, the interest feels strong. You discover something new, an idea, a skill, a plan. You imagine yourself doing it consistently. You even feel different already. You gather materials, you research, you begin with energy. For a moment, it feels natural. Then, something changes. Not dramatically, quietly. You stop opening it daily. Then, you delay. Then you think about it without doing it. And eventually, you don't return. Stay with me, because the problem wasn't motivation. It was imagination. Before starting, your brain interacted with the idea. You imagined progress. You pictured the outcome. The reward existed mentally, and mental reward already activates satisfaction. When you begin in reality, the experience becomes slower. Repetition, mistakes, confusion. Learning requires effort. Reality replaces the imagined version. Your brain compares two experiences, the imagined self and the real process. Imagination is immediate. Reality is gradual. Immediate feels better. So interest decreases. You didn't lose desire for the outcome. You lost the stimulation of anticipation. Anticipation is exciting. Practice is neutral. Your brain preferred anticipation. There is another shift. At the beginning, identity is flexible. You could become someone who does this. After starting, evidence appears. Now you see your current ability. Sometimes that conflicts with expectation, and attention pulls away. You may have noticed, you love planning, you love learning about the skill, but doing it repeatedly feels heavier, because repetition gives less novelty, and novelty was fueling energy. Your interest was tied to discovery, not maintenance. Once discovery ended, you interpreted the drop as loss of passion, but it was loss of newness. The brain releases more stimulation at the start. The first attempts feel meaningful, later attempts feel ordinary. Ordinary feels less rewarding, even though it produces progress. Consistency depends on a different system, not excitement, familiarity. When something becomes routine, the brain stops evaluating it emotionally. It becomes part of daily behavior. You weren't incapable of commitment. You were measuring continuation by enthusiasm. Enthusiasm fluctuates. Behavior stabilizes. People who continue are not always more motivated. They expect interest to decrease. So they do not interpret it as a signal to stop. They treat it as a phase. The moment excitement drops is not the end of suitability. It is the beginning of learning. The process only becomes visible after imagination fades. You didn't fail the interest. You reached the point where it required patience. And patience feels different from inspiration. Once you separate excitement from decision, continuation becomes simpler. You no longer ask, "Do I still feel like it?" You ask, "Do I still choose it?" And the answer becomes clearer when feeling stops being the only guide. If this helped you understand something you hadn't been able to explain, you can subscribe to The Inner Lens and turn on notifications for future episodes.